Hi guys. Hey, it's Miss Woodard here. I just wanted to let you guys know that I cannot be with you guys today. I am 456 in my building, so I got a video for you guys to take a look at today, and then I'll put your to-do list up on the whiteboard at the very end of this video. Hey, couple quick announcements for you guys. First thing, grades are due. 6-week grades are going to go out. Everything has to be put in on my end on Friday. But please remember that I assigned an opportunity for you guys to go in. Let's say that you guys got your test that we just took. Your test was worth 200 points. That's a lot. You guys need to know that an average assignment that you do for me, just in class, when one of these that I give you guys on a Monday or a Thursday, it's worth somewhere between 5 to 10 points. So you would have to do like 20 of these at least to make up for one of those. So some of you guys are messaging me and you're going like, well, what can I do? How can I like make that grade a little bit better? Well, I guess my thing is I really want you to recognize that a test and a quiz, that gives me information that tells me what you know about the concepts I'm teaching. These are more practice. So in math, what you're doing here is I'm giving you assignments to practice a concept, practice a skill. Those points are valuable, but those points usually don't accumulate to the part to where the accumulative part at the end where you're showing me what you know. So if you guys took that test, and some of you guys did, and you took that test, and let's say that you only got like half those points, say you only got 100 points out of the 200, right? You know that equals a 50%. And a 50% is considered an F in math. That's going to really affect your overall score in here. If you only get 100 points and there's 100 extra points sitting out there that are up for grabs that you never earned, that's going to impact your overall score with me on Friday. So if you would like to earn those back, I gave you guys this opportunity. I said, I want you guys to show me what you know. And what that means is I went and I opened up Edulastic. So that's, Edulastic. So I opened that up and I want you guys to log in with Google. So you log in with Google and you now can see how you did on your test. You can go back in and you can take a look at your test and you can see what kind of a score you earned, and you can see the points and the problems that you maybe missed, things that maybe you needed to go back and study. If you went back and you studied all of that, and then you created a slideshow for me or a video like what I'm doing right now, if you created something like that, well, then what that means is that you can submit that to me. So what you need to do with this assignment is I actually never assigned this. This is not sitting in Google Classroom. You have to share this with me. If you share this with me, I'll go back and I will attach some of those points. The best way to bring up your score. And if you can do that before Friday, I can get that grade in and then that'll go out on your report card. It's an opportunity for you guys. I think that this is the best thing for you to do. Some of you guys are going back and you're attempting assignments from way back in like September. We have not talked about those concepts for 2 months now. So we need to be moving forward, and we are moving forward. We started Module 4. Module 4, if you guys remember, we were reviewing subtracting integers. So what I was having you guys do is I showed a lot of, just a quick little reminder, I showed a lot of keep, change, change. And so what I was saying there is like, if you guys are given something like -7 minus -10, this number you keep. So you just follow that whole pattern. You change subtraction to addition, and then you change the sign of the second number. So it would look like -7 plus, and then -10 would turn to 10. Whenever we're adding integers that are different in signs, that are not the same, you're going to take the sign of the larger. So the sign of the larger is positive here. We have more positives than negatives. And then you ask yourself, how many more positives do I have than negatives? I have 3 more positives. So my answer to that one would have been +3. Now I was watching you guys, and on Monday, that looked like that went really, really well for us. I felt really good about all of that. And I think we're ready to move forward. So you guys are right now exactly where my building students are, and they're right now practicing slope and y-intercept. So I'm going to practice that with you guys today as well. So what we're going to go through is this next section. This next section, if you guys are keeping a notebook, what we are doing is you guys are determining slope and y-intercept is what it's called. So we're determining slope and y-intercept. And I got a Nearpod. So if you guys are struggling like with my explanation, those Nearpods come in and they're another way to look at this. So that Nearpod, I want you guys to attempt when we're finished here. And it's going to go over what I mean by this. So remember when I talked to you guys about slope, I also talked to you guys and I said that slope, we often use this letter M to represent slope. And what we were talking about with that is we were talking about change in y. So I was asking you guys what is happening on the y-axis over change in x. And I told you guys some of you wanted to change this to like a mixed number. And I said it's better if you keep it as an improper fraction so that you can actually see what kind of change are we going up or are we going down on the y-axis? And then what kind of change is happening on the x-axis? Are we going left or are we going right? So we got up and down and we got left and right that's happening. And that's what slope is talking about. So slope's creating that line and it's talking about how steep is that line? Is it flat or is it super steep? Remember we have some extra slopes that we had. Remember all horizontal lines? Like think of the horizon that look like this or flat. Those are zero slopes. And vertical lines like this that go straight up and down, those had undefined slopes. Because sometimes we have zero in the numerator, we have zero in the denominator. So we talked about slope. There's a new word here, y-intercept. Y-intercept means this is where your line, that line that we're drawing on the Cartesian coordinate system on the XY axis, that line, it's where your line crosses the y-axis. So there's a point that's significant when you look at this x and the y. So when we look at this x and y axis, if I was to draw a line in there, and we could draw just about any line in here. If I was to draw a line in here, I'm talking about where it crosses the, oops, sorry guys. I am talking about where it crosses the y-axis. So it would be this big point. Remember, this one's the y-axis. This one is the x-axis. So we have an x-axis and a y-axis, and you're thinking of that point. Where does it cross the y-axis at? So we're going to be determining some slopes and where it crosses the y-axis at. That's what we're looking at today. Here's what I'm going to do with you guys. I am going to, in this video, if you follow along, your assignment is split up today, and it's split up into 3 sections. So you guys have section 1. I'm going to do section 1 with you. So I should give you all the answers to this. There's no reason why you don't get a perfect 10 on this. If you didn't get a perfect 10 on this, it's because you're not watching me, and I know it. That doesn't help your overall score, and it's something that I can communicate to parents when we're talking about why you're not doing well in math. All right, so section 1. Section 1. Here's what we're doing, section 1. And it's got the stars, and it says determining the slope and y-intercept. And then that's concept 8.4c. That's what we're working on today. So it says for you guys to go through the 10 questions below. Then your name is the first one, and it is required. So please put in your name, your first and last name. Here we go. Problem number 1, it looks like this. So you guys got these task cards, and we're going through and we're doing these task cards together. So problem number 1 says the table below gives the coordinates of points on the coordinate plane. So we're looking at this. And I'm just going to write this table kind of like this, x, y. And I'm going to put in here 0, 1. We have 1, 3. We have 2, 5. We have 3, 7. And then we have 4, 9. So those are the points. And if I was to write these points like a normal point that you guys would see, like this would be 0, 1. We would write it just like this on to plot it on the XY axis. To plot it on the Cartesian coordinate system, they would look like this. What I'm doing is I'm splitting them up, and I'm putting the x's like in a table and all the y's in a table, and I'm looking at it that way. So there's my points, and it's asking me, all right, figure out the slope of this. If I give you all these points, and I've given you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, you do not have to graph these. What you guys got to remember is we're thinking change in y over change in x. So what I'm asking you is, what's happening here between the y's? To go from 1 to a 3, looks like I'm adding 2. To go from a 3 to a 5, I'm adding 2. From a 5 to a 7, I'm adding 2. From a 7 to a 9, I'm adding 2. So it looks like my change in y, what's happening as I'm going from one to the next all the way across, is I'm adding 2. It's a positive 2. Now I'm going to go up here and remember what's happening with my x's. From 0 to 1, it looks like I'm adding 1. From 1 to 2, I'm adding 1. From 2 to 3, I'm adding 1. And from 3 to 4, I'm adding 1. So it looks like on the x-axis to go from the 1 to the 2 to the 3 to the 4, I'm just adding 1 all the way across. So the change in x would be 1. This one you can simplify down and you can just say your slope is 2. So I would say my slope is 2 and I would answer this one C. There's number 1. Number 1 should be the letter C. All right, guys, there's one down. Here we go on to number 2. Number 2 looks like this. The graph of the linear function is shown on a coordinate plane below. What is the slope of this linear function? Okay, so I'm going to draw this one. So what we're doing is we're figuring out slope, and this time we don't have it written in a table. We actually have these points, 0, 1. We have 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 2, 5. So we have these points that look like this, right? So what you guys can do is I would just actually look at like 2 points. Like this one here is a 0, 1. And then this one over here is a 1, 4. So I would look at these points and I would go, okay, what's happening? Change in y. My change in y, I would go, all right. And guys, when you're looking at slope, make sure that if you start with this point for the y, you start with this point for the x. That's what'll make sure that you get the positive or the negative numbers right. I can also just look at the directions this is going in as I read it from left to right. Like I read a book, it's going up. So I should get a positive slope. So that's the very first thing that I can just determine is that this should be positive. But you will do some math when you're doing the adding and subtracting with integers. If you go and you go, this one, if you look at this point to this point on the y, and then you go from this point to this point on the x, you got to keep them the same. If I start with this point on the y, I have to start with this point on the x. Keep them the same. Then your positives and negatives will work out. So change in y. So I'm going to start at this point. I started at 1 to get to the 4. 1, 2, 3. It looks like there was a change and I'm going up. So it looks like I'm going up 3. Now the change in x. To go from 0 to 1, I'm starting over here on the x-axis at 0, and then I'm going to go over here to 1 on the x-axis. Looks like I'm going to the right 1. So it looks like I'm going on a positive direction 1. So this one would just be a 3 slope. It would be positive, and I can just write it as a positive 3, and that looks like it's the letter B. So for number 2, I should have the letter B. And I want you guys to notice that I didn't even use that point. That was just on there. You could have used it if you wanted to. Totally up to you. You'll still get the same answer. When you look at this and you're trying to count change in y over change in x, it just would have reduced down to be a fraction that would have just been reduced to 3. So there's number 2. Now we're going to move on to number 3. We got another table. So our table looks like this. It's x and it's y. We got a great big long table. And we're looking at this, negative 4, negative 18. Then we have negative 2.5. And we have negative 10.5. Not all of our points land nice. Some of them can land on the system in between numbers. That's why we have decimals. 0, 2, and then we have 212 way over here. 212. Okay, guys, so same thing here. It's, but this one's actually, I'm going to actually read this one to you guys just so that you guys can see. Be careful, because I'm probably going to trick you just to make sure you read it like I did. The table below gives coordinates of the points of a line on a coordinate plane. So here's all these points. Remember that we can write it as negative 4, negative 18, just in parentheses with the x coordinate and the y coordinate. But I wrote it out as a table. This one says, what is the y-intercept of this line? Okay, so what I want you guys to think about, when we're looking at a graph, and whenever we're looking at the y-intercept, so we're thinking like there's going to be some point where that line, and there could be all kinds of lines, it's going to cross the y-axis. all of these points that I just drew right here on the y-axis, I want you guys to notice that this is when x equals 0. X has to equal 0 to find that y-intercept. So when I'm computing this, I want to be thinking in my brain, when does x equal 0? When x equals 0, that's where it crosses the y-axis at. I haven't moved left, I haven't moved right. If I move left or I move right, if I go into 1 unit over here and then I go up, that's not going to be where it crosses the y-axis at. It's crossing the y-axis when x is 0. You haven't moved to the left and you haven't moved to the right. You haven't done anything there. So when x equals 0, that is how you guys find the y-intercept. Whenever you're looking for that, you're thinking, you're asking yourself the question, when does x equal 0? So I get to go look at my table. And when I look at my table, I'm like trying to find, when does x equal 0? So if I look at this right here, this one say x equals -4, that's not it. This says x equals -2.5, that's not it. This says x equals 0.4. That is not it. And please don't let that mess you up. It is not when y equals 0. When y equals 0, that's where it crosses the x-axis because you haven't gone up or down, you've gone left or right. So that you're looking for this magical one right here. This is the one that makes us happy, is when x equals 0. When x equals 0, what did y equal? Y equals, the y-intercept is, so the y-intercept as a coordinate is always going to be the x equals 0, the y equals 2. It was given to me right in my table. So what I'm thinking is when x equals 0, y equals 2. So my answer for number 3 should be the letter A. The letter A. All right, guys, I'm going to move on to number 4. Number 4. Here's number 4. Number 4 says it's another graph. And this time on the graph, I'm given these points. I'm given this point 0, 1. I'm given a point 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm given that point again, -2, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's those points. Thank you guys for understanding I don't have graph paper, but here's those points. Remember, this one is again asking you, what is your y-intercept? So what I mean by that is, where does it cross this y-axis at? So we're still working on this y-axis. What point does it cross the y-axis at? There's an obvious point where it crosses the y-axis at. I'm going to bold it. I'm going to make it really big for you guys. You can see that point. That point right here where it crosses the y-axis. That point is 0, 1. 0, 1. So my answer for number 4 is D. The answer for number 4 is D. Okay, number 5, we got our first word problem. Number 5 says, Maria plans to buy the same number of spoons each week to add to her collection of spoons. The table below shows the number of spoons Maria will have at the end of X weeks. So at week 1, she had 22, 25, 3, 30, 4, 35. How many spoons does Maria originally have in her collection? And how many spoons does she plan to buy each week? So we started at week 1. What the question is how many did she have at week 0 before she even started? So if we looked at that like a table again, and we got this like sort of XY table, and you guys are looking at that and you're going, okay, 120, 2 is 25, 3 is 30, and then we have 4 is 35. So what you guys are recognizing here when you look at this is that you're adding 1 each week, right? We're adding 1 each week. So it's just adding on 1 each week. Well, what's happening between each week? It looks like I'm adding 5 there, and then I'm adding 5 here, and it looks like I'm adding 5 here. So if I'm adding 5 all the way across, the first question says, well, the question asks me, how many does she have originally to start with? So I want to start and I want to think to myself, well, where was she at week 0? Way over here, week 0, because I subtract the 1. So I'm going to subtract that 1, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, she had to be 5 less because every week she's adding 5. So at week 0, she would have been with 15 spoons. That would have been where she started. So it says Maria originally had, and then I can look at here, it says 15 spoons, and she plans to buy 5 spoons each week. That looks like it matches. She started with 15 spoons, and each week she's adding 5 all the way across. So that would be the letter A. You're more than welcome to graph this if you want, or you can just use what I said in the tables and you can look at like this is a consistent change, rate of change. So what we talked about is rate of change. Consistent rate of change that's happening that's showing that slope. That's why we talked about ratios and proportions right before we came here. All right, so number 6. The table below gives the coordinates of the planes of a line on a coordinate plane. What is the y-intercept? So instead of me drawing all of this out, remember the y-intercept is when x equals 0. So you're looking at all of these and you're going, okay, when does x equal 0? When x equals 0, it's the y is -3. So we're looking at 0, -3. We're looking at B as being the y-intercept. You're always trying to figure out when x equals 0, what does y equal? That's my y-intercept. Okay, number 7. The graph of a linear function is shown on a coordinate plane below. What is the slope of this linear function? So what I got is, and I got a line. Linear means a line. Function means that these two, they're all related. These little lines are, these little numbers, they're all coordinate with each other. 0, 3, and then 1, 5, and then we have -3, -3, right? -3, -3. So there's my line. And you guys can do this however you want. This number here is 0, 3. This number over here, this coordinate over here is 1, 5. This coordinate over here is -3, -3. I don't care which one you guys start at. Just remember what I said. If I start with this coordinate for the y, I have to start with this one for the x. You can't go like y and then this x. You have to keep them the same. Got to go in the same order. Got to pick them. The order really matters here. So I'm going to use, I kind of like these points right here. I'm going to use these points and I'm going to think to myself, change in y. So if I'm starting at 3 and I'm hopping up here, it looks like I'm from 3 to 5, I'm adding 2. So my change in y is going to be a +2. Change in x. I'm starting at 0 and I'm going over 1, so it's going to be a +1. So it looks like, and again, I can just look at the line and I know it's going to be a positive slope. So 2 over 1 is just 2, so I should get C as my slope for number 7. All right, guys, we're cruising along. Number 8. The table below gives the coordinates of points on a line, and here they are. What is the slope of this line? Oh my goodness. So don't get like tripped up if like on a math problem. They give you way more information than you need to know. So they gave me this. They gave me -2, -12. They gave me -1, -7. They gave me 0, -2. They gave me 1, 3, and then they gave me 2, 8. Oh my goodness. You guys, to do slope, you guys can, you can do it like with just 2 points if you guys need to, but double check and make sure, that everything's actually kind of like jiving up. So you want to start and look at your change in y. What's happening to go from -12 to -7? So if you're thinking I'm like the number line, -12, if I was to draw this, my -12, here's 0, -12 is going to be way down here, -7 is going to be right here. -12 to get back here, I think that I am adding 5. I'm going in that positive direction, so I'm adding 5. Same thing here. To get to the -2, -7, I'm going to be adding 5 to get back to -2. To get to the +3, I had to do the 2 and then 1, 2, 3 more, so I'm adding 5. 3 plus 8, I'm adding 5. So it looks like I'm adding 5 all the way across. So the change in y is a +5. Change in x. To go from -2 to -1 is a +1. -1 to +1 is going to give me a 0. 0 plus 1 is going to give me a 1, and 1 plus 1 is going to give me 2. So it looks like all the way across the board, I'm just adding 1. So this slope can be written as 5. This slope can be written as 5 or A for number 8. We're almost done, guys. Number 9. Number 9, I'm just going to show this one to you guys as well. I don't want to draw it. Here's my graph. It's asking me what is the y-intercept. Where does it cross the y-axis at? I can see this point right here where it crosses the y-axis at, and that is 0, 3. So D should be my answer. 0, 3 is where it crosses the y-axis at. And then number 10. Donald will save the same amount of money each month to add to his savings. The table below shows the total amount of money he will have in savings at the end of X months. So he started month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, 70, 90, 110, 130. How much money does Donald originally have in his savings, and how much money will he save each month? So you're looking at that table, and it was kind of like the last one that we looked at, and we were talking about the spoons. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So it's each month. And then over here we have this guy, he's got $70, he's got $90, he has 110, he has 130. So what looks like it's happening is it looks like we're adding 20 each time. We're adding 20 to go from in his bank account each month. So the question is where was he at zero? Where was he when he very first started? Well, if we're adding 20 each month, we should subtract 20 to get back here. So to subtract 20 to get back here, it looks like he initially started with $50. So I'm going to find this one that says Donald originally had saved $50 in his savings, and he will save $20 each month. So it looks like he's saving $20 each month. So I would say B for number 10. That is number 10. B for number 10. Okay, guys, so there's your assignment today. That is the very first section. I left you guys with 2 sections for you guys to complete. Please remember that this is a 2-hour-long math class. I am with you. You're allowed to give yourself breaks, but you need to utilize this time to make sure that you guys are asking me questions and you're feeling good about the content. So here's your guys' to-do. I want you guys to have this sitting on the back burner. I want you guys, you could use this time and you guys could be working on this show me what you know, because this is huge. This is due Sunday. I will not take this late. After Sunday, your grade stays the same, and I'm not going to accept any other late work. We are done. We need to be moving forward. That is a section of math we're finished with, we're wrapped up with, and we're moving into something new. So I would highly recommend, if you're worried about your grade, that is what you need to do first. After you've done the show me what you know, you guys have these task cards that I've assigned to you guys. I've done section 1. I did section 1. Is done. You guys have section 2 and section 3. That's your guys' assignment. So section 1 is I just did those problems with you guys, and you got a Nearpod to take a look at. And that's all I gave you because I did get feedback, and I appreciate that feedback. You told me that you were feeling a little overwhelmed, and I don't want to be that overwhelming. I want this to be helpful. You have to practice math. You guys can just expect that there's going to be math homework. There's going to be math assignments. Math's kind of critical, and we got to make sure that we have practice time. So you will have assignments every time we meet, but I can limit them and make it so we're not doing like a million of them. So this week, you guys got your task cards, you guys got your Nearpod, and then you can show me what you know to help with that test score. Once you're done with that, you guys got that 60 minutes that you have to wrap up of ST Math. Don't forget that 60 minutes has to be done. And I will add that grade in over the weekend so that we can start fresh next week. Next week, we're going to meet on Monday real briefly. I think I can be with you guys on Monday. It's a normal 456 in my building, but I think I have a few minutes where I can meet with you guys real quick on Zoom. I'd like to see you and say happy Thanksgiving, but if I don't, I'll push out another video on Monday, and we'll just keep moving forward. So please let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll be watching through Go Guardian. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thanks for working hard. Keep it up. I see you. I see you. And I'm here, and I just appreciate you more than you'll ever know. So hang in there, guys. We got this. Good to see you.